Live from the Hub Studios in Atascadero, this is a Clarion Voice. This is Mark Sobowitz with the Clarion Voice, along with Mike Donaldson and our technical crew, Debbie and Selena. And we welcome you to the Hub Studios here in Atascadero. And this is Tuesday, February 28th. And today we're going to talk about, is it time for revolution? Now, you might be wondering, what are you talking about, Mark? Well, we're talking about a revolution of prayer, a revolution of getting together and praying to God for repentance, for sin, to get rid of sin and wickedness. And, about 50 years ago, there was a revolution that brought into focus the Jesus Revolution, which started with Pastor Chuck Smith at the Calvary Church, as well as Greg Laurie of Harvest Ministries. And so I'm thinking, it's time. It's time that we go back to that. And Mike, you were involved in that in some respect, one way or the other. What do you think? I mean, is it time?
Well, it's always time to search out the Lord.
Okay.
And I don't feel like going back to a revolution. I think moving forward, if you think about even the name, we revolve, right? If you ever had a gun, it's a revolver. He makes a full, complete thing. I think whatever has happened in the world is that we're now revolved back into a situation where, there's a desperation for God. In some places, a lot more than here.
Right.
It's hard being we're not a third world country by any means, first world problems,
Mm-hmm.
I get my feelings hurt,
Yeah.
where I look at places like, now I forgot, is it Kenya? I mean, they just closed the banks. They closed them. You think they took away a lot of stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, now I can't even have any money. So how are they going to exchange things? Is everything going to be barter? I don't know, but that's desperation.
Right.
And when people are desperate, people seek out relief.
I don't think we're desperate enough for God. I really don't think we are, because you hear all sorts of different things about, I don't want to get into a labeling contest, but millennials seem to be going away from the church in some respect, and they're trying to find a different way to faith. I really don't think that there is a desperate need for God. I mean, people are not getting on their knees as much, praying because a lot of this came, I was inspired by Second Chronicles 7:14, which talks about, if my people will pray and humble themselves,
and pray,
then God is going to answer and heal their land. We need a healing in this country, big time, in so many different ways.
Yeah. You don't think people are getting a little more humble these days?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I mean,
I see colleges all over the United States, that, and we kind of talked about this last week. Colleges all over the United States are just, for no reason. I mean, there was nothing to happen at Asbury. I mean, somebody played a little video clip. This is what happened right before the revival at Asbury.
Mm-hmm.
The guy was saying the same things you're saying. Boy, we just need God right now. That's all he said. It wasn't like, fire from heaven,
right.
Hellfire, brimstone. He wasn't shaking his fist in the sky. It was like, hey, I mean, look at what things are transpiring today, which makes you want to go, boy, we really need God. I mean, I see so much constantly of what's going on, not just here in the United States, but in the world.
Hmm.
You know, like I said, some people are in more desperate state than we are in trying to stay alive. But there is this heart desperation. And I think the timing of this movie that's just come out,
Hmm.
the Jesus Revolution, and uh, we had planned this conference that we're having this weekend, and it was back in November. It was like, okay, what do you want to call it? We called up Ken Fish, and he says, I don't know. How about Healing and Revival? Yeah, sounds great. Well, Asbury hasn't happened yet. All these other places haven't happened yet, but all of a sudden, here we are in the middle of God moving, and we're going to have this conference about healing and revival. I think it's timely. And
Right. I agree. Yeah.
I see guys, well, we look at it like that and we go, wow, how'd that happen? Well, I think God's more in control than we realize.
Hmm.
I think the desperation, and that's why kids are changing, trying to find their identity, and they think, well, maybe if I just call myself, they, them, zizzer, that I'll be accepted, I'll be better, changing your identity, every day, some of these things are just crazy. How does that happen? I mean, what were people searching for 50 years ago?
Hmm.
They were using drugs to find that ultimate peace, to quiet the voices inside that are driving them nuts. They drive them to a place of wanting more drugs so they can quiet the voices. So that's what I'm kind of seeing.
I see God moving, I'm not saying that, God is, not there in the hearts of people. These things wouldn't have been happening if it wasn't God's direction. But there was a young lady last night who shared, and I was like, holy moly, because she was really, expounding some, wisdom that you don't expect
Yeah.
necessarily
Yeah.
from young people like that. And she was really impressive as far as how she explained herself. I mean, if you can duplicate or tenfold her and amongst the kids and whatever, we would be doing pretty well. I mean, and I'm not saying that it's not happening. I'm just saying it's not happening enough.
Well, for you, maybe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is yeah. That's fine. That's what it's my perspective. I mean,
Right.
and
Exactly.
I own that. I just
Okay.
don't see it because, okay, maybe I get caught up in the news or something like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You can definitely get sidelined by what the media is trying to, tell you this is true. This is true. This
Yeah.
is true. And they hammer it all the time, every
Right.
day. Oh, yeah. Look at the headline today. All right. And that's been for a few days now is we now know that the corona, and this is coming from your federal government. We now know that the coronavirus came from the lab in Wuhan.
Right.
Okay. Well, some of us have been saying that for years.
Right. That's
Because
true.
it just is pretty obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened? We were all silenced. You can't say that. You can't say that. Now it's okay.
I know it's
So people are finding out things. Their eyes are becoming open. It's like, well, wait a minute. What if this happens again? Are we just going to just give away all of our rights? No, we're going to keep meeting because they were trying to keep us from meeting as a church.
I know it's just something to me. Okay, maybe I get caught up like a lot of people in the in what the media is saying and whatever. And I'm not saying that, revival necessarily doesn't have to be advertised per se. It's just that it happens as a movement of the spirit and, people
Right.
gather together and, they pray and whatever. And then however it works, then people will come that way. Now, I was telling you earlier about what happened at our church, many years ago about we had a play called Heaven's Gates and Hell's Flames. It was supposed to go like 3 days. And So people started hearing about it because of how it was influencing people and coming to the Lord and things of that nature, and the message itself.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, it turned into 2 weeks.
Right.
That's about as close to a revival, as I have seen
Right.
in a long time.
And it affected people in a certain way,
Right.
right? And it caused them to search out God, which is obviously we want people to maintain that the attitude. But I think you mentioned humble yourself, and that's a key thing because
Right.
to recognize that you need help, recognize that you need God, you need to humble yourself, just to say those words, you know. Um, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation, because I have, where like you're not doing well in the water and you feel like it's just about ready to start going under.
Hmm.
And if you don't cry out for help at that moment, you may just drown, you know? And I remember a time in Mexico, and I called out to my brother who was, 20 yards away or so. We were out there trying to snorkel. Long story short is I go, John, help. And he came over and got me out of this situation where the tide was taking me where I didn't want it to go. And the fins I had weren't really helping. So anyway, bottom line is that desperation is there, but what are you going to do? Are you going to keep your mouth closed, or you're going to humble yourself and ask for the help? And crying out to God is just like that. And when you get that desperate, life and death, you start waving your hand and yelling for help. And that's the humbleness that you need to
Well, do you think that people are doing that on the whole? I mean, forget the what's the events that are happening and whatever. The general attitude of people, in relationship
well,
to God and whatever. I don't.
yeah,
I'm not sure
I'm
that
going
they
to have
want to
to
be
start.
self-sufficient. You see, they don't. I mean, they want
Oh,
to.
I see.
They don't want to rely on something.
Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, you can be self-sufficient in your daily life, right? I mean, just generally, in other words, you know how to keep a job, I mean, that's self-sufficiency,
Hmm.
you know. You can still be that and still rely upon God for help and all other actually even in your self-reliance. I go to this job every day, but I pray and ask God to give me the wisdom I need to do my job well and to maybe keep my eyes open, for opportunity to share my faith. I think that's a reliance upon God. I don't see that as a bad thing.
No, but I see that. Okay,
I
there's
don't know. Oh, go ahead.
different levels of humility.
Right. No, I understand that. Yeah.
I mean, you start with what you're saying about the,
Yeah.
self-reliance, and there's nothing, wrong with that because you still depend on God. I mean, I'm in that situation. I mean, I depend on God
Yeah,
for, a
I
lot of
do.
things. Okay.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that there's another level to
Well,
ascribe to,
yeah, well, do you think that that's going to, be cause people to be different or better, or, I mean, like, your level of dependency? I've seen people that are dependent that never move out of that dependency. What's that all about?
right. I know.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But y- a former pastor used to say this, and I love it. He used to say, I pray to God all the time, Lord, let me grow up before I grow old,
Mm,
you know,
very true.
and
Very true.
mature, so that you're not, your reliance upon God uh, just grows. And they're just things you don't worry about, you know. But
So,
but I think, okay, let's go back to that gal from last night. I think she is Lonnie-esque, like
mm-hmm,
Lonnie Frisbee-esque, where
mm-hmm,
she can accurately articulate her the needs of her generation,
mm-hmm,
because that's what Lonnie did to
mm,
Chuck Smith back in the day,
okay.
right? He was able to say, in order to love these, you have to love these people in order to talk to them. I mean, you have to know them in order to talk to them, know what they're going through, knowing that the fact that they have which is why they're doing drugs. And that's what he told Chuck. He says, yeah, but they're doing drugs. And he goes, yeah, it's because they're searching for something.
I think that somehow or another people are searching
Oh yeah.
more so for, because a lot of the things, that people think are going to get them through whatever they're going through is not working for them. So somehow or another, as believers, we have to, have the responsibility of knowing the person,
Yeah.
understanding what they're about, and then bringing them into the kingdom by offering them freedom
Mhm.
as a result of
Yeah.
being, in the kingdom. So getting back to the original question that we asked at the beginning of
Is it
this,
time?
is it time for revolution?
I think it's always time.
Okay. All right.
I do. I think it's always time to take stock, because I've seen people that come into revivals, and for that moment they're fine, but they don't carry it through to the other side.
Yes, I understand that.
There's a lot of people that let's just say grew up with, in the church that I was going to, that they just aren't walking with God now.
Hmm.
It's like, well, they just, well,
I think the key
that was a
is
season,
the key is sustaining, when you
Yeah.
when you come into a relationship with God, more so than you have now, it's sustaining, because I know that a lot of events, like 9/11, or the football player for the Buffalo Bills that had a heart issue, which united the country, because of what happened, and the nature of it, but it didn't sustain. It just,
Well, okay. So
to some extent, I mean,
in other words, football's over and we don't see a whole lot kneeling anymore.
yeah, right.
But a lot of people say that because they saw that, it just changed their perspective.
Hmm.
Like, well, let's not get into specifics. I was ready to go into going downtown, as far as which media is, is doing this, but they're really talking a different agenda. They're really talking about a different thing. And the fact that they found a 25-mile tunnel that goes from Mexico through Arizona, goes down, turns left, and goes into a residential home, which is where they traffic
Hmm.
people. That's, oh my goodness. I mean, things I feel, and I really feel like God is answering our prayers when we said, Lord, please don't let them get away with this. Expose the evildoers for what they're doing so that you can be glorified.
Well, we have to have an attitude of repentance. I mean, there has to be, repentance of, the your sin and the wickedness, and you have to.
No, I'm saying I'm praying for those people who are doing evil.
Okay.
And we've been praying, for a while. And then God is doing exactly that. He's exposing the evildoers,
I see. Okay. Okay.
and I get excited about that. I don't know about you, but I every time I hear another story about, somebody getting busted for something,
I see what you're saying. Okay.
and it's because they're being exposed, and I think that that's what's going to change a lot more as we go along. People feeling that they were lied to, well, they're going to find out they were being lied to.
Yeah.
And
It's changing their perspective.
right,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, we hope that you'll comment
Revolve.
on the video and our discussion. We certainly welcome that, and we want you to answer the question: is it time for revolution? And we hope that your perspective will change, and that you will come to humility in your own lives, and hopefully that you'll develop a closer relationship with God as a result. So, in any case, this is Mark Sobowitz, and along with Mike Donaldson, and this has been a Clarion Voice.